Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Wah, ba, 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 ra, da, da, dun. Na, na, ra, da, 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 da. Ra, ba, ba, bum. Ra, da, 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 da. Keeping Up with the Nerds podcast. ASMR episode included into the Star Wars. We're changing things up a little bit. Ugh, that's so gross, dude.
Star Wars. Pew, pew, pew. Red leader coming.
Blue leader standing by.
Oh, man.
Were you recording that?
I'm recording now. Yeah.
Oh, you were?
I was recording.
So I
that
picked it up.
Yeah. It started with you going, keep up with the nerds.
Keep Up with the Nerds. Alrighty.
ASMR has just become a whole thing now.
It's creepy. Have you ever actually paid attention to it at all, or no?
Yeah, and one time I did listen to it to help me sleep at one point, because I did hear it helps you sleep. So I did listen to a person kind of going through books and stuff, telling me what the book is and then going page by page, and it did help me fall asleep. But then I woke up to a guy clacking glass together because it kept going, because I'm listening to on YouTube on my phone,
and you're just
I'm just it just kept going with different videos, and it was just a guy's hi, welcome to the bar, clink clink clink.
No, see, what bothers me about ASMR is because I've always been the type of person to like my own personal space. Mm-hmm. So if someone comes up to me and is literally right by my ear or something, trying to speak to me like this, it freaks me out. Yeah. So I can't stand.
There's some with personal attention. They're like, hi, how are you?
How's it going, Rene?
Yeah.
You doing okay, buddy?
Yeah.
And it's no, just can you step away from me for a second, please? So I don't like that in my ear. I don't know, man. To each their own, Yeah. Whatever.
I have a specific I don't listen to every single video. I just listen to ones that at least have to do with daily tasks and stuff, just doing little things. Say you're a librarian.
Are you saying that you listen to ASMR on your own time?
When it helps me sleep.
We learn something new over here every day.
I don't listen to it to just to listen to it. If I'm having a hard time sleeping, if I can't sleep on my own, I'll just be okay, I'll just listen to someone doing something.
And that puts you to sleep.
That puts me to sleep.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not to the point where it's ear licking.
Okay. No, you look good. No, we're gonna take the headphones off.
You're about to take your headphones off.
I cannot.
All right, let's get into this, guys.
All right, so we're a little bit personal on your stuff, but you're gonna open
2 minutes of me and me 2 minutes admitting I listened to ASMR.
Well,
videos.
we're gonna open up the episode now, Rene.
I know we have to.
Are you ready?
Now. Yes.
Okay.
Let's do this, because I failed last time, and now I have to open it. So it's all on me.
Go! Let's do this. Believe in yourself.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour, coming to you from 12920 Philadelphia Street, Whittier, California, aiming to be Whittier's #1 for all things nerdy. I'm your host, Rene, and co-host, Bryan.
Okay.
We did it. Cool.
A little bit of a fumble
There
because
was
you
a
didn't
fumble.
say podcast,
I didn't say podcast,
but you went through it, and that's important in what's it called? Improv.
Yes,
that's important in improv. I appreciate that, Rene. You know what? If no one tells you that, I appreciate you for going through with this. All right.
Welcome, guys, back to our podcast, our show. If you guys listened to the last episode, we talked a lot about Star Wars.
We
tried to talk about Kathleen Kennedy and her position.
We did. I don't think we tried. I think we did.
We discussed her. I think it was the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, there's really nothing much to discuss when she's just kind of there. Now we can. Yeah. Technically, now we can
talk about it now. Basically, this second part is basically still about Kathleen Kennedy, but then also about the show creator Jon Favreau and what he did for the ongoing arc of the episodes, looking over everything, making sure everything is good and stuff. We watched the Disney's gallery of The Mandalorian over time. We didn't watch all the episodes. We have to admit that. Like,
you got through.
Yeah, I got through to like episode 6.
I went through 4 episodes.
Yeah, it's hard because, you know, when it comes to stuff like that, you know, for me personally, it's like, you know, when we have to do something for an episode or for a podcast, it feels like homework. And I never did homework as a kid, and yet I still graduated high school, so I'm going through that.
I'm doing great, guys.
Yeah, I'm still doing great, you know.
It wasn't, you know what? It wasn't so much homework. I think it was just like, because for me personally, I only got through 4 episodes because I was just really busy throughout the whole week. And then so I binged it on one day, and I was just exhausted. Yes, I was like, you know what? But honestly, I'll say this, that the first 4 episodes, I felt like episode 1, where they just brought in the directors, was the peak of it, because you got to see the creative minds behind everything. And really then as you kept going down, for me personally, it got it still was interesting, but it didn't have the same like click as the first 2. Yeah, I would say.
Going through it after episode 4, watching them, it was kind of like them telling me stuff that I kind of already did, that they already told us about in like interviews that they were doing. And then it's just basically like stretched out. Yeah. You know, like the whole like, oh, they used like the screen, the volume, that's what they called it. With it's basically all these like LED screens instead of a blue or green screen, you know, that's what they used. And I already knew about that, and I was like, okay, cool.
See, I didn't know about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know. So all of this stuff was completely new to me. Oh, okay. We'll talk more about it throughout the whole episode as we keep going on. But the reason as to why we decided to make this a homework and, you know, watch the gallery video to record this podcast is mainly because we ended the last episode with wanting to talk about the supposed rumor of Kennedy's exit and Favreau's promotion into leading Star Wars into a possible new era.
Again, mind you, this is just a rumor, and something that just we wanted to discuss because it was an interesting topic of both us being fanboys of Star Wars and stuff, and how that idea of Kathleen Kennedy stepping down and Jon Favreau, if it's possible, if it is true, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And obviously we looked it over. We watched how Jon Favreau did The Mandalorian and how he looked over everything on the whole episode as a series, every single episode. And I think, you know, me and Brian are both confident that we would really love if Jon Favreau was the head of Lucasfilms and stuff like that. And I keep forgetting to do
that. You just unlocked the new treasure with that. With what you just said.
What I just said. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's surprising to me to kind of take a look at how he went through this entire process. I want to reiterate what I said in the last podcast, because I think in the last podcast I straight up just said like, oh, I don't like Jon Favreau. I think Jon Favreau's like too much.
I think you just don't have you didn't really care for most of his movies.
No, because I do. Okay. It's just that I meant the word I said the word hate, and I shouldn't say that, because after watching this and kind of taking a closer look at his mind, I think more than anything I'm jealous. Jealous of how creative and his entire thought process is. For me personally, I wish I could be as creative and as big of a genius as he is when it comes to these movies. You know, we'll extend more into it. I think we got to pretty much format our discussion and see how we're going to go about this, or else it's just going to be a pretty much potpourri of just random stuff. Yeah. But there was a quote on there that essentially said that he said where he was talking about the directors and why he brought different people from different backgrounds, and it phenomenal. The fact that he brought so many different people, literally people that you don't think would be able to work together, managed to work together and create this wonderful piece. Even someone who was completely, you know, not skilled. Okay, so.
Well, let's talk about so let's talk about right now then just Jon Favreau and how he basically stood in every single episode that was directed and like oversaw everything and made sure that both they stayed in the narrative and also try to be their own episodes when each director. Like, let's talk about how he managed everything.
Okay. So do you want to start with the directors?
Yeah, let's start with how he managed the directors.
Okay. Yeah. So for the directors, he brought on 5 different directors, okay, for the 8-episode series. These directors are Bryce Dallas Howard, Dave Fillion, Deborah Chow, Rick Famuyiwa. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correct.
We're sorry if we didn't.
And my all-time favorite, I look up to him in all his entirety,
Yes.
Taika Waititi. I love that man. I love everything about him. And oh my God.
So let's admit there's 3 people on that thing that we know. That's Taika Waititi, Dave Fillion, and Bryce Dallas Howard. But we don't know anything about her directing thing. We just know about
because she's an actress. Yes. So in that episode where they discuss the directors and pretty much how he approached this entire project, to me, it's fascinating that Favreau came in with this mentality of, I want to try to bring in people with creative minds, smart people. He wants to work. He kept using that word. I want to work with smart people. And his definition of smart is something that is pretty well known, but he said it in a way that is very creative and kind of hits close to home. Yeah. A smart person doesn't wait to jump off the plane and let their parents. I'm gonna butcher this. I know I am, but he said something along the lines of like, a smart person doesn't just, or a creative smart person doesn't jump off the plane expecting the parachute to go off. They just do it. Yeah. They want to take risks, and that's what he did. He essentially got these directors and said, "We're gonna go with this. I'm gonna bring people from all forms of media." Dave Fillion.
Oh no, Dave Filoni. That's what his name is.
Dave Filoni.
It just came to me as we're talking. Dave Filoni.
Filoni.
Why do we say Fillion?
Because
we can't read, guys. I'm sorry.
We're nerds that can't read.
Yeah, we're nerds that can't.
Dave Filoni has never directed any live action projects.
Yeah, he's only done animation and he's only done the Clone Wars stuff.
And even the Clone Wars, he wasn't like confident in making.
No.
He said that in that interview.
Yeah.
He's like, I focus on animation. And to me, it was just kind of funny that when he was interviewed for that Clone Wars project, he thought that it was a joke.
Yeah.
Set up by the guys at Nickelodeon that worked on SpongeBob. And I'm like,
I love how deep cuts he goes into Star Wars.
He is fantastic. I think that he is a literal definition of a Star Wars enthusiast.
Yeah.
And that is simply because of his entire monologue of the father and son in Star Wars. Yeah. I remember watching that and just sitting there with my girlfriend in awe of his entire monologue, explaining how the first film in the prequel trilogy connects to the last film in the original trilogy. Yeah. And I'm like, holy crap, this makes sense. Like, what did you, how?
Yeah, I don't know how. He has a beautiful mind when it comes to Star Wars.
Fantastic.
And I love that he was involved in this. Some people were kind of like, he only does animated stuff. He does not really good at live action. I'm like, no, that's not it. No, he knows what we want to see, and he knows how deep they'll go into for The Mandalorian. Because if you don't know, I mean, if you just watch it as a casual person, you'll still enjoy it. But if you're watching as a Star Wars fan, you know what they're hinting at, what they're referencing, and what they're talking about.
Yes, the important thing to understand, from at least from my perspective, at least, is this: that the directors grew up with Star Wars. Yeah, every single one of them had some sort of connection to Star Wars, right? Did Taika Waititi?
I think Taika Waititi said that he loved the whole special effects of Star Wars.
Okay,
he wasn't a fan. Or no, he did like him, but he wasn't into the story. He loved the way they did things.
So there's some sort of connection to Star Wars since its original release.
Yeah, like Bryce Dallas Howard was always around in that industry as a kid.
Even had dinner with George Lucas, but fell asleep.
Yeah, that's the thing. So she's been around Star Wars, but she sees all the behind the scenes stuff, and that's what got her into it.
So the way I see it is this: everyone had some sort of connection and touching moment with Star Wars as a kid, but as they grew up, they started to leave behind the fantasy aspect of it, and we started to kind of crave for a more serious, one-tone, darker direction of Star Wars, a more drama-filled kind of aspect to it,
which is normal when you grow up.
Yeah, exactly. We see that all in our comic books and our video games. We start growing into more of a desperation for a need for drama, and I think that these directors captured that moment. Because revisiting the original Star Wars movies, I mean, granted, we weren't born around that time, but we watched them as kids. Yeah. And I remember, and this goes back to pretty much how that episode went out. These kids were, as kids watching Star Wars, we were so attached to the entire fantasy of it.
Oh, yeah.
And then growing into this whole, like, as we grew up into adulthood, there were parts of our lives where we kind of left behind Star Wars because we thought it was too childish. We revisited back, but, so on and so forth. And now that we're older, watching The Mandalorian and seeing this drama aspect of the Star Wars story being brought to life is something that satisfies us. Yeah. And I think that the directors and Jon Favreau understood that. Yeah,
you could tell that each episode was its own creativity, personal one for each director. Like, it had a different tone, but it stayed within the narrative, and that's what makes Jon Favreau so great, is that he's allowing these directors to be creative, to listen, we can do it this way, we can do it where, like the heist one, it's like, we'll make it like a heist movie,
a western
where it's just like, with Bill Burr, amazing casting, by the way. I love seeing Bill Burr in it. Him in the Star Wars universe is now a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and also the way that they treated. When Mando goes into meeting the guy from Sons of Anarchy, that actor, that big guy with the curly hair and stuff. It's just so great. They're treating it like it's an old western. He's going into a tavern and stuff like that. And there's a job that we need you to do. And
Favreau
like
understood.
Yeah, but
the definitions.
It stayed within the narrative. That's the thing.
To me, it's funny to see Favreau directing directors.
Yeah.
But not necessarily puppeteering them.
No.
He was more along the lines. He was like a father figure to them.
Yeah.
And it said, this is my creation, my baby. But as directors, go and do your job and give me your own flair to this. And that is something that is, again, I will say this again. I am jealous of him, of how much of a genius this man is to essentially create something out of Play-Doh. Like this is essentially Play-Doh. Like we look at the directors, the directing choices don't make sense, but they do when you see them in context. And that is fantastic.
This whole series was just a new depth into the Star Wars universe. Yeah. Where it wasn't like anything where we're like expecting at all. It was just everything that we didn't know we wanted.
Yeah.
and more.
I wish I can go and see which directors directed each episode. I mean, there's a way of looking it up.
I know Dave Filoni directed the first episode.
Yes.
And Rick directed the second one.
Rick directed the second one.
And then the third one was by
Deborah Chow.
Yeah.
And then 4 was Bryce Dallas Howard.
Which was a great episode, too. Which is funny because that was the episode the other directors didn't want to do.
Yes. Because he said, even Favreau said that we gave you, or we're tossing the new kid in there and see how she floats. And I'm like, that is so mean.
That is mean, but she pulled through with flying colors. Like, that whole episode was the introduction to, what's her name's character? Gina, the introduction of the...
Are you, Gina is the character or Gina is the actress?
The actress.
Gina something. It starts with the C.
Yeah.
We know who it is.
We know, the MMA fighter. That was her introduction episode, and it was great. The way that they fought in that episode.
Can I just say that that's my favorite? That was like one of my top 3 episodes out of the 8.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it was so... I wouldn't have thought that someone like Bryce Dallas Howard was able to direct. I didn't even think that someone directed it. Like, she directed it.
At the end of the episode, you're like, wow, that's a really good episode. It says, boom, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. I'm like, what? I was like,
it's like,
that was a great episode.
Fantastic. The angles, the lighting, the cinematic sequences when they start approaching the village. That sequence where the mother and daughter are in the basket under the water trying to hide. Everything about it had emotion. And there's a snippet in there, if you pay attention to that episode in that episode where they talk about the directors and her portion of it, she's like, that right there, that captures emotion. I'm like, that
moment.
You get it. She understood it. Just everything about that episode is fantastic. And I remember because they go through every director and pretty much giving their stories and whatnot. I think that's the longest episode in the gallery. It might be around like 40 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes. But when they reached to her and she was just like, oh yeah, I'm the newbie in the group. I've never really directed anything live action. I'm just an actress and stuff like that. It flashed back that episode. And I remember major portions of that episode that just hit me. Like, yes, this brought so much emotion. I think that was the episode with the mic that was accidentally left in.
Maybe. Okay.
That might have been.
I think
whatever.
So.
You know what? Like, we all took that as a meme, but like that episode was so finely well tuned.
It was still a great episode. It's just the way that they basically showed like a more humanized Mando when he was talking to the lady in the village and stuff, and he was more than willing to stay with her and stuff like that. But then realizing that, no, I got to protect this child. I got to get out of here because these people are not safe if I stay here.
Yeah, because someone will come after, especially after realizing that he was almost going to get shot. Yeah. In the last scene where Gina's character saves Mando, last minute, I didn't even think about it. Yeah. That's how you can tell that a director did a good job when they take away the aspect of saving someone. And you're just like, is he dead? Is he dead? No. Someone came in last minute to save him. Someone that you knew could have saved them.
Yeah.
Just the unexpected turn of events that happened. Dave Filoni directed episode 5, The Gunslinger. Rick directed episode 6.
Well, that was a good episode too.
The Prisoner was the heist one, isn't it? Yeah. And then
that was my favorite episode, if anything. I love The Prisoner. That's my favorite episode.
That's episode 6.
Yeah.
That's the heist one. I think that one, I think... Yeah, I would rate it as my top episode just because of the intensity throughout the whole moment.
Oh, dude, Mando was like Batman in that whole scene where he's chasing them down in the hallway.
You can tell that there was major Batman vibes on that one.
There was major Batman
especially
vibes.
With the red flashing lights.
Oh, and then like he's like in and out. And I'm like,
oh my God,
so
he
great.
understood.
And then it's funny because you think he kills them, but then it pans into the next scene after he leaves the tracker with the other guys, and then it pans to the other scene where they're all just stuck in the cell. And I was like, oh, I hope we get to see them in season 2. I was like,
as a return.
Yeah, I want to see more Bill Burr in the Mandalorian.
you know he will. You know that Favreau, even if they don't bring him in entirely, they'll make a cameo somewhere. Favreau knows how to speak to the people that way. Deborah Chow directed episode 7, and Taika Waititi directed episode 8, the last one.
Another favorite episode was the last episode of mine. So I think it's like, so if I had to choose like top 3 episodes, it would have to be The Prisoner. Then what's the last one called?
The Redemption.
I like Redemption, and then possibly the second episode.
The second episode, which was The Child, directed by Rick. So 2 by Rick and 1 by Taika Waititi.
I love how Rick directs. That's the thing. Watching him and then how he explained how he does it and how he likes to do it. I was like, dude, I really see what he's trying to do.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite director in this entire show?
In the show? Ooh, it comes down to either Rick or Taika. Because I love the way Taika throws in his humor. He throws in humor, but then also the humor doesn't overshadow what's happening in the narrative.
He doesn't take away.
Yeah, because that whole bantering between the 2 stormtroopers is like my favorite thing in the whole Star Wars universe. It's just them talking about, Moff Gideon. It's like, it's like, oh, he just killed like 100 of his troops and stuff like that. He's like, well, should we go down there? Did you not just hear that Moff Gideon is like killed 100 of his troopers down there? I get that point. Do you get that point? He's all like, and they're just shooting the little thing, the little can or something.
And they can't. He brought back that part where they can't aim.
Yeah, they can't aim. And then I loved again. They were punching the child.
Favorite part of the whole series.
That was my favorite part because I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, not a lot of people are gonna like you guys. But and then just he's like, what is he? Then he gets bit by the finger by by the child. He's like, punches it again. And I was just like, what the heck are you guys doing? See, that's the thing, and that's what I love about it.
Have you ever seen What We Do in the Shadows?
Yes.
Have you seen Jojo Rabbit?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now you understand.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of
okay,
course.
good.
You seen Thor Ragnarok?
No,
I love What We Do in the Shadows. I think it was right before Thor Ragnarok came out. I didn't know a lot about Taika Waititi, but I did know he likes to do humor. Because he was in Flight of the Conchords and stuff like that.
He directed and produced a couple of those episodes. Yeah.
And that was really funny. I loved. I loved a few of the episodes that I saw, and I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I get. That's what it is. I've always heard of What We Do in the Shadows before I saw Thor Ragnarok, and someone told me, like, listen, like watch What We Do in the Shadows first before you see Thor Ragnarok
and see his approach.
Yeah, you see his vision, you see how he tries to do it and stuff, and I just loved it.
Little tangent, to me, it's kind of funny that when Taika Waititi was announced to direct Thor Ragnarok, everyone freaked out because they're like, you're really gonna give a small indie director the rights to direct a major multi-million-dollar movie? What the hell's wrong with you? I only found out about Taika Waititi because my friend Bishop, shout out to you, my dude.
Shout out to Bishop. We love you, man.
Oh yeah, we love you, Bishop. We love you. I love you for this, by the way, because you introduced to me my favorite director of all time. he introduced me to What We Do in the Shadows, and I remember watching that movie. I even remember what I was eating when I watched it. That's how much of an impact that movie made to me. It was Taco Bell. I remember I had a Mountain Dew with me, and we were just watching What We Do in the Shadows at my place. That movie made such a major impact in my life. I wouldn't say that it's like my favorite. That still belongs to Alien, but it did make a major impact.
Yeah, it made into your top movie.
Yeah,
that's big.
So I fell in love with Taika Waititi's style of directing and how he just kind of manages to make normal everyday things very funny and bring in a little twist of humor.
Yeah.
For me, Jojo Rabbit has a big impact because you don't take a topic like World War II and the Nazi regime in Germany and make fun of it.
That's the thing. And he did it in a great way where it was like mind you, we're following, Nazi youth children, they're the ones being impacted by Hitler and stuff and by the Nazi regime and stuff. And then when it pans back to living in Germany during that whole time, and then Scarlett Johansson's character, you find out stuff about her and stuff, and it's just so emotional too. That's the thing.
You see the end of the Nazi regime from a child's eye, and never do you pan away from that. Because the mother is always loving, even though she has a secret agenda. Yeah. And everyone to him seems bigger and right. Yeah. And so the entire movie is always going to be from his perspective. And I don't know if you caught on to this, but he managed to make the perfect Nazi boy the image of Hitler, the image that Hitler hated. Yeah. Because he became a cripple. And he wanted to become the perfect German boy, which he can never be. No. And so to me, that is Taika Waititi style, where he hides these little hints and little moments into this entire story, which he did in the last episode of The Mandalorian. He made this entire series, which was a super drama-filled Western series, and put in his own twist of humor, but still gave everyone a finishing arc that meant something. Yeah. And going back into this whole thing, Rick and Taika Waititi are your two probably favorite directors for this entire series. For me, even though I have a complete bias for Taika Waititi, I can't pick one. Yeah. And that isn't like a cheap answer to walk out on.
No, because all these episodes were great.
They were.
That's the thing. But it would be not fair. It wouldn't be fair to say pick your favorite director on here, because each one had their own flair. And Bryce Dallas Howard only had one episode, while other ones had like one or two.
She was an acting consultant, is what she kind of like felt she was. So she went in and helped certain actors figure out their kind of movements and flow for certain scenes,
which helped out that whole episode.
Yeah. And for me, the reason as to why I can't pick it is just because Favreau did such a great job in combining all these directors into one mind. They're all like neurons in a brain. They all have their separate, duties and stuff like that. But when you bring them close together and have them work together, they create the brain. They create this image of the Mandalorian. Definitely. And that's what I feel happened. Even though we can say, Taika Waititi had a really great episode and Rick did a fantastic Western in episode 7 or 6, excuse me. When we look at every single one individually, can you tell the difference between every single one? No, because each one was a mini movie, like he said in that in his documentary. Every single one, he wanted to aim it to be a miniature movie, and he did it fantastically. So directing wise, Favreau, I think, couldn't have done a better job than he did now.
Yeah, I think if you look back, so to wrap it all up, I think at least this topic, this part of the episode we're talking about, because I was looking back, and the way that you could watch The Mandalorian, if you watched one out of place just to like show someone what The Mandalorian is, essentially, they could technically watch just one episode out of place and get it right then and there. But to have a better experience watching The Mandalorian, it is better to watch it 1 through 8 episodes and stuff. But you could still watch a one out of place and just be like, whoa, that was really good, So that's how you know you did a good job.
As far as the casting goes, what did you think of the casting?
I love the casting. Everyone was perfect, what's his name? The guy.
Are we saying everything is perfect because we're biased for The Mandalorian? Or you think that, like, can you think of a better method of implementation?
Okay, so let's talk about Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian. They did a great job because they even said it. Like, we wanted someone that has that voice, but then also just kind of looks like, they're, just an average kind of person and stuff like that. They don't look like a movie person, it just looks like just a random person that it is. And that was great.
Back to what we said in the last episode, Rey was a level 30 character in a level 1 world.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian with Pedro Pascal was a level 1 Mandalorian at the beginning of the story.
Yes.
Because let me ask you this: whenever you have someone come into the store and like they talk about Boba Fett, Boba Fett is highly regarded as one of the coolest characters in the Star Wars universe, right? He's got the jetpack, he's got the rocket, he's got the blaster. He's like the coolest dude in Star Wars. If you don't like him, what the hell's wrong with you? So when you thought of the Mandalorian, your initial thought was
Boba Fett.
Yeah, and the unstoppable force of a Mandalorian.
That's the thing, yeah.
Pedro Pascal humanized him
very, very well because, like you said, he was a level 1 character. In the show, we do see him, he does fight well. He knows how to do hand-to-hand combat. He knows how to use his gun. But then when we're seeing him fight like characters like Gina's character, fighting against her, it was hard for him because she is a very skilled fighter, a very skilled soldier, and also when he's fighting against Moff Gideon's army, he tries to use the little thing, but then Moff Gideon throws like a thermal grenade at him, and then he gets blown up and hit, and he hits his head, and he's incapacitated at that point.
You ever notice that he was the type of character to always get shot?
Yeah.
A lot?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have like the normal combat experience that other people do, even though
he wears an armor that's that's impenetrable. So it's like, okay, so when he gets shot, he doesn't worry about getting shot. He doesn't have to move around a lot, because he knows he gets shot.
Yeah. So Pedro Pascal did a fantastic job with the voice. Like I think there was no other way of saying it. He humanized this character. Yeah. He made him not be the unstoppable force that we all know about Boba Fett or Jango Fett. We know him as the Mandalorian, the wanderer, the guy with finding a purpose, with no purpose, So to me, fantastic. Couldn't have done a better job. And I think Favreau explained this in the entire series. How do you approach a character with no eyes? How do you give him emotions? How do you make him tell a story through just movement alone? And Bryce Dallas Howard again tackled this very well.
She did.
She said it. Every slight movement needs to have a bigger meaning, and that's what Pedro Pascal did. Every little head tilt, every little look at somewhere, had a meaning to it and some sort of either emotion to that. And no, I don't think that anyone could have probably captivated that moment better than he did. He understood what the character was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. Do you have any thoughts on, finishing thoughts on Pedro?
No, it's just I'm glad that they got him. When I heard that he was cast, I was like, ooh, okay. Like I've seen him from Game of Thrones and stuff, and he had a really great character in Kingsman, Kingsman: The Golden Circle,
as Whiskey
Whiskey. I loved him as Whiskey, and he was also in Narcos. I heard he's great in Narcos. I haven't watched Narcos yet, but I'm definitely gonna watch it now. I heard he was great in Narcos, but yeah, I had total confidence that Pedro Pascal was going to do it. And then finally also obviously a Latino character is being represented in this.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
As a main character and a badass character in the Star Wars
People
universe.
don't think about how big of an impact that is, but when I found out that Poe Dameron, Oscar Isaac is Guatemalan, and my parents are from Guatemala, are like, that hit me hard. I'm like, good. Like I love that because, everyone else is usually Latino, Mexican, or Salvadorian or something like that. But when a Guatemalan gets on stage, it's like, yes, that's what I like. Gina's character.
Yeah.
What did you think about her?
I loved her. I always had a crush on her, since like Fast and the Furious and stuff.
Was she in Fast and the Furious?
She was in Fast and the Furious. The one with when they're trying to get Letty back after knowing that she's back from the dead. She was with Rock's character, but then but she was like his like second-hand man and stuff like that. But then find out that she was working with Shaw. She was like the spy at the end of the movie. And then she was also in Deadpool.
As who?
As remember the big girl that was like super strong that went up against Colossus.
Oh.
Yeah, she was in Deadpool. Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah, man. So I've always known, like, I've always loved her, because she always plays those type of characters and stuff like that. In this one, she's still the same type of character, but with more depth, more just like there's a story with her and stuff like that.
That was the thing. Gina Carano played Cara Dunn. Cara Dunn is her name. I knew it was with the C.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the fact when they interviewed her in the gallery episode, she felt at home.
Yeah.
She said she felt at home playing this character. She played herself.
She played herself essentially because it was really great to see. I mean, obviously, when it comes to characters like that, people just like to automatically just say Ronda Rousey. And I'm just like, really? Like Ronda Rousey?
It's the first person that comes to their mind.
She's not a great actress. I'll say it right here.
She's not a good voice actress either because of freaking Mortal Kombat 11.
And
she killed Sonya Blade. So, you know.
And it's just like a cop-out because I get it. Ronda Rousey, you know, she's fit, she's strong, she can fight. But the thing is at the end of the day, you need someone that can act.
Gina made me forget pretty much like how can I say this without like sounding like a dick or a misogynistic. Gina pretty much made me forget, like she just made that character phenomenal, I guess is the
she took you out of reality.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
She took you into reality because the thing is that when a person like that is cast, when like an MMA fighter or a former UFC fighter is in a film like that, you automatically know, oh, that person's a former UFC fighter, and they're only in here because they know how to fight and stuff like that. No.
She brought personality and character. She made me look at Cara Dunn as an important piece of character development in the entire story.
If anything, second to Mando, she is the most interesting character with the backstory because her backstory is great because she's from Alderaan, and it's a planet, and obviously her planet's destroyed, and she's also a former rebel soldier as well too. She's not a rebel soldier, a shock trooper.
Yeah,
but she's not anymore. That's the thing. And she has that rebel tattoo right then and there, which I love. I love how they put that right there under her eye and stuff. Like
so she can't hide it. She can hide her band on her arm by wrapping it up, but she can't hide that. And so that was her only danger there.
Yeah.
To me, you know, I always kind of, and this is something that was brought into the future episodes of the gallery, but this is the only thing I will give Kennedy for. The thing that I will say that she got this.
You will give her credit.
I'll give her credit for this. Every Star Wars character needs to have a silhouette that you can recognize them from afar.
Which is true.
Gina's character.
That is really true.
Yes.
Every single silhouette of each character, you know right away. That's Han Solo. That's Darth Vader.
Even
that's Luke
from
Skywalker.
them walking towards you will know. And Gina has that perfect. Yeah. She doesn't need to have an extravagant costume that makes it seem like she's a badass, you know, former rebel soldier.
Or a weapon in any sort.
Her personality, her vibe, her image, her self-image made that character, you know, come to life for me. Her massive shoulders, her like strong body architecture, like everything about her was just Cara Dunn. Like when I think of Cara Dunn, I will not picture anyone else but Gina's face on there. Yes, and that is something that is fantastic for her to do.
Face.
Yeah. Oh my God, Rene. We're trying to like idolize her and make her perfect.
No, she is. Yes. No, I'm just saying she's a very beautiful woman at the same time.
Yeah, I get you. But like, just she has become like an idol to me in the Star Wars universe.
Yes. She has definitely integrated herself as a character that you will always remember now.
Yes.
In the Star Wars universe. Yes. Definitely.
The other one that they interviewed was Carl Weathers.
That was another
Greef Karga.
Great casting because I was just like, because I'm thinking who else would have made those characters great? I mean, that character in specific, Carl Weathers' character. What was his name again?
The character?
Yeah, the character.
Greef Karga.
Greef Karga. And I'm thinking in my head, and I'm like, you know what? Ernie Hudson would have done an okay job. Who else? I'm thinking of someone like back in the 80s that you're just like, back in the
you're asking the wrong person.
Really?
I cannot think of actors. Like actors' names don't come to mind to me sometimes. I have a difficulty at like doing that. That's like my only weakness.
Carl Weathers was great because we haven't seen him in anything recently. You know, and it's like, okay, you know, obviously if you guys know who Carl Weathers is, he's best known for Apollo and the Rocky series. He's also great in the Predator movies with, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that was pretty much, those are his big things at least. He's done other movies in the 80s and 90s and stuff like that. But recently, he hasn't been featured in anything. So to see him be part of the Star Wars world, you know, as a man as old as him, you know, he's not like a fanboy or anything like that. He knows of the Star Wars. And to see him be part of it was really cool, and he played that character great.
He has the voice that you would recognize of someone like, what's his name, from Pulp Fiction?
Samuel L. Jackson?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
He's got that voice, and oh no, not Samuel L. Jackson as well. What's his name? The voice of God. Morgan Freeman.
Oh, Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. I don't remember why he didn't come to mind.
Morgan Freeman could have played that character. He could have played that character.
He could have, but I think that Morgan Freeman doesn't have the body language to have played such an important character like that, because Carl Weathers, for me, what he did is he created a character that was mafia style. You sat in with him and you can automatically tell that this man meant business.
The way he talks and stuff like that.
If you sidetracked anywhere from the conversation, you were done. He doesn't want to speak to you. He might even kill you on the spot. He did a fantastic job in implementing suspension, not just through his body language and acting, but through his voice. There were very key moments where his inflections either went really high up to signify that he was really angry and invested in the conversation you were in, or very low to tell you, you know what, like I got the cards in my hand. Like I know how to, I know how to pretty much approach this whole thing. So Carl Weathers, to me, did a fantastic job. And I find it funny that when they were interviewing him, they said Favreau's whole thing was like, yeah, we're going to only use him for like the first 2 episodes and then pretty much just kind of like let him go afterwards and put a prosthetic on him. You could tell too,
like the way that the episode was going, or like the narrative of episode 1 and 3. You're watching it and you're like, is he going to stick around or is Mando just going to kill him? And then when he shoots him, you're like, oh crap, he shot him. And then you could tell, like, last minute change up, you could tell that they put the little thing there, this little the metal thing right there where he got shot. And I was like, oh, okay, so they're gonna use him again.
So he's gonna come back.
He's gonna come back, but is he gonna come back mad, or he's gonna be, somewhat
he came back a changed man because he became more badass and more active afterwards.
Yeah.
Casting for me personally is phenomenal by Favreau. I don't think that he could have done a better job here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Looking back at it, obviously you can't think of anyone else now that would do those roles any better.
No.
That's the thing.
Now, because I know we're running out of time here. It's going to be a little bit shorter of an episode, but we can combine, at least from what I've seen, the legacy and technology of this whole thing. When we discuss and talk about Favreau and pretty much his kind of creative mind at work with The Mandalorian, when he talks about the legacy, you can tell that this man and the crew that he picked to work on this, the creative crew behind it, they understood the Star Wars legacy and development through its ages. They understood George Lucas's mind and pretty much his approach to technology and creating the movies that he did. That's something that is fascinating to see, because a lot of the times you see directors come in and they essentially just want to take the role in the reins of this movie and say, no, this is going to be my thing. This is going to be my project, the way I want to do it. Favreau didn't.
No.
Favreau came in and approached this with respect, and he wanted to implement his own work. I didn't even know that he worked on Lion King or The Jungle Book.
Yeah, those were those movies he worked on. Yeah, he first worked on Jungle Book early on, when they were doing like those live action movies. Like those, like Jungle Book is like one of the early live action films.
One of my favorite ones, by the way.
And I was thinking that too, because like when they were announced they were going to do a Lion King adaptation, I was like, oh, well, I think the only person that Disney would be smart enough to use is Jon Favreau. And they did. They used him for the Lion King, which, again, I've seen the Lion King live action adaptation. It's not bad. It really isn't. It's just,
but the tech behind it.
The tech behind it. It's just, as watching it as, a kid that grew up with the animation of the Lion King, the original one, it's hard to not to compare it. That's the thing.
So look at how Favreau understood the legacy and the importance of the technology behind it, because when you were watching the let's discuss the legacy portion of it, did you ever feel like Favreau just came in disrespecting any portion of the legacy that George Lucas left behind?
Not at all. You could tell he was embracing it so much, because he was a fan himself too. He always loved Star Wars, and you can tell that he wasn't trying to change it up, or he wasn't trying to bring in his own version of it. He was literally saying, okay, this is what's happened in here during this time while their story is while they're making their story. Let's just do it where it's just like, because what I love about The Mandalorian is that it's not a high stakes show where like how the movies are, where it's like every single little thing changes the aspect of the universe of Star Wars. This one is just, we're just following a bounty hunter in this world. Mm-hmm. And it's not like altering every single thing, you know, like every episode didn't like, oh no, like it changed up the lore, you know. Mm-hmm. This one was just like he knew the rules and he went with it. Mm-hmm. He stayed within the rules of Star Wars.
He set his own rules and guidelines and didn't break from those.
Yeah.
For me, when I saw everything that was being implemented into it and his advancements with, you know, approaching the legacy and his advancements with technology, I felt like he spoke the language of people.
Yeah.
When it came to this, because for me at least, when he was mentioning how he used the game engine to develop the tech and, you know, accurately portray a scene using cameras to the millisecond, changing the background using the vision screens. Is it called the vision screens, or what was it?
The volume.
The volume, the volume, and then changing the image background to match the movement of the camera to the millisecond. It's like you understood that. Like you understood what he was talking about, and he was really fascinated by it. He wanted to push technology to a point that would make film creation easier. Even with The Lion King, for example, how he used VR technology to record scenes as if you were, it astounds me. You're able to record in real life virtual reality segments.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like technological inception.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, like
you're looking at it and it's like this looks so real, and it's not.
It's yeah.
Yeah. And you're walking around and it's following you.
Yeah.
You're walking into it and there's like new things, like you're actually walking past something.
Yeah. So. He's fantastic. I don't know, man. This man is a certified genius in my book.
That's the thing, and the whole volume thing was just so great to watch, because they even said like this is groundbreaking technology that people have been wanting for years. Even George Lucas was like the one that predicted it. Or not predicted it, but just saying like
his vision in his
head, where it's like we can just do these in our garage.
Yeah.
Just in a closed area and make it this whole big setting.
Yeah.
And we don't need to, you know, create
We can film this movie in our garages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's really cool about that too, what makes it really easy for also the visual effects team, is that everything that's lighting and shining on the characters or the actors is great reference, because it's actually showing up on it. You know?
Most, what did he say? What was the director of photography? One of them, I think it was. He's like, most DPs fear reflective surfaces when working on green screen, but here we embrace them, and I'm like, that is fantastic.
Especially for Mandalorian's outfit, you know, because it's all chrome and his helmet is reflecting off everything, and you can just see that it's actually reflecting off of it, and that's real, but it's just using a screen that looks real. So it makes it so immersed into the world that you actually find it like, what the heck? Because
how do they manage to do that?
Because one episode that shocked me that they revealed was episode 2. In the beginning, remember they're walking in like these like caves or like these open trench.
Yes.
The child and Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That whole background behind them, just a screen.
You wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think of that. That's the thing. I thought it was an actual set or like an actual located area.
The fact that he made it seem like it was so real. Now that the magic is spoiled to me, I kind of feel like I can go back and watch The Mandalorian and depict what the screens were and stuff like that now that you've seen it. But it's so fascinating to me that Favreau, alongside all these people that worked with like the lighting and the screens and the director of photography and the choreographers, they're all magicians in my eyes. They made a world happen in such a small, tight little area. Yeah. It's fantastic to me. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Now that we've kind of discussed major portions of pretty much our thoughts on The Mandalorian, there's still 4 and 2 episodes left that you have to watch, 4 for me. But I think we kind of have a general idea of what we think of Favreau and stuff like that. Do you really feel like Favreau would be a good replacement for Kennedy if these rumors were to be true?
Unfortunately, I would have to say yes. Because
Unfortunately,
I'm trying to not be so vicious. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy did her best, and I think that she did what she wanted, but it didn't work out well. She got what she wanted, but it didn't work out well. I saw your face twitch. Your face twitch. That was great.
She stresses me out, man. I'll tell you why afterwards.
Yeah, no, but Jon Favreau shows at least that he knows how to tell everyone, this is what we're doing, this is how it is, this is where we're going, this is how it ends. But I want you guys to tell me how we're gonna get there, or how you could do it in your own way, or tell me how you want to do this to get there. And it was just great to see him. He's on set too. That's the thing. When all the episodes were filming, he was on set next to the directors, making sure they're coming out good. But then he's also interested to see how they're gonna do it. He's also curious. He's that type of person where it's like, oh well, they're filming, so I want to see what they're gonna how creative they're gonna do. He's not there to manage, to be a little stickler and be like, no, we're doing it this way, we're doing this. No, he just tells them, okay, well, that's cool, but let's just try it this way.
He's a father figure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's not being mean or malicious, or if they don't have it in the way that he thought it was like, no, that's not right at all. He's not trying to be like that. You
think he has the experience?
After this, I mean, I would let him go for it. Let's see how he does with 3 movies. Let's see how he does with three more episodes of the Star Wars.
I wouldn't even say 3 episodes, because if you're taking the hot seat of Lucasfilms and leading Star Wars into a new era, you'd be in there for a good decade.
That's the thing.
Because Kathleen Kennedy was in there for, I think, a little under a decade. Because she came in when they wanted to revive Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, about a year to 2 before they actually released the film. Yeah. Because they were working on it. So he'd be taking the hot seat for a bit.
Yeah.
We wouldn't see anything else coming out of him either. Keep in mind that once Favreau signs up to take the Star Wars role, if he does,
it's probably going to be done, or that would be a break from the Mandalorian.
Which I wouldn't mind. Yeah. I think that 2 seasons of the Mandalorian, if he can finish up the story, would be pretty well. It's just Disney needs to kind of understand that if we're going to let go of Kathleen Kennedy, bye-bye, then bring in someone like Favreau and kill off the Mandalorian, end it well, and then give him the seat to bring up the new era.
Yeah.
Any kind of thoughts, negative or not negative, but any concerns probably that might come to mind if Favreau were to take the hot seat?
I'm just hoping that the movies, or if he does do them, they're not too long. Mind you, he has to wrap everything up in, if he was going to do an episode arc, of 3 movies and stuff, he would basically have to wrap everything up within 2 hours within 3 films. So mind you, he's done great job with The Mandalorian, but that was 8 hours, or maybe less than 7.5 hours of storytelling.
He had the ability to do so.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, he worked also on Iron Man. And Iron Man could stand alone as its own film. It doesn't necessarily have to be connected to the Avengers.
But that's another thing, is that he did Iron Man 2, and that had a lot of studio pull. And Disney's notorious for doing that as well too, especially if he was going to do Star Wars. That's maybe Disney would want to either try to get their little fingers into it, because you're doing a new Star Wars movie, so it's you got to implement obviously new characters, new merchandise characters that you need to put out, how they try to put out those pogs, or what is those little bird things in the new one. Remember in Last Jedi? Porgs. Yes, Porgs. They were trying to put those in, and then
I have one at home.
Why do you have a porg?
Because my girlfriend loved it, and
really?
I loved it. Yeah,
you loved it?
Yeah, they're cute, dude. I'm a fan of penguins.
I like Ewoks more though.
Oh well, I have also an Ewok.
So that's what I'm saying, is that merchandise wise, he has to create a whole new thing for another cute character, another droid,
which can easily be done in a Star Wars series.
That's the thing. Yeah.
There's no way. Honestly, it doesn't take much creativity to design
I'm just hoping,
a sellable character.
I'm just hoping it doesn't ruin the movies when they do that. Stuff like that.
BB-8 wasn't a character that ruined the movie. As an asteroid droid, I think it was a pretty good design for an asteroid droid. And then the child, as much as I hate the stupid little thing, I did a good job. It wasn't Wait,
you hate the child?
I don't like him.
Why?
Because he's so stupid.
So that's another thing.
It's dude, shut up.
Is that why we haven't talked about the child?
I personally don't.
Yeah.
I look. Oh my God, man. I feel like I'm always on the hot spot whenever it's why do you hate this thing? You hate Favreau, you hate the child. What don't you hate then?
I mean, I think that was a better way to market.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I'm just not a fan of cutesy things in certain franchises that I like. The Porgs took me a while to kind of get used to. I was just cool. They're really cute and stuff like that. But I think what got me was the whole penguin aspect, because penguins are my favorite animal. So I'm like, okay, I'll fold into that. But the child was like, I think for me it was the public response. It's like, oh my God, it's Baby Yoda and all this stuff, and I was just like, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. After Baby Groot, it felt like Disney needed to do another baby version, so they did Baby Yoda, which was smart. That's
exactly.
It ended up working out, but the thing is that during this whole thing, there hasn't been a lot of merch for it. Like, I just see a lot of like independent like people that just do their own art of it, or you can get like a shirt done by someone else, and stuff like that
on Etsy and stuff like that.
On Etsy or whatever.
All right, can I chime in with my
go for it?
Let's because we're gonna wrap this
we'll
here.
End it with you.
So for me, I have a feeling that Favreau. No, let me rephrase that. If Favreau were to take the seat and take control into the new age of Star Wars, it would probably be extremely beneficial, because he can understand and respect the legacy as it is and bring it forth into a newer generation without losing age differences. I think children will still love the fact that Star Wars is a fantasy, hopeful series, while Favreau can still deliver us a very dramatic, sincere, and heavy Star Wars story. And we got sirens now in the background. Thanks, guys. Thanks for ruining this.
Someone's needing help.
No. Now you made me seem mad. Favreau can lead this into a good direction, into a great direction for both children and adults, because something that's important is Favreau understood George Lucas's messages, which was Star Wars is about hope. And I don't think he's lost that. I think that he kept that throughout the whole Mandalorian series. He will push the technological advancements of filmmaking for Star Wars. He will always bring in something new. He brought his old, methods of filmmaking from The Lion King and from The Jungle Book and implemented it here and pushed it even forward into things that we wouldn't be able to imagine. My problem is this with Kathleen Kennedy. If you can easily say that one of your directors did a better job directing a rival franchise movie, then you've goofed up.
Yeah.
I will safely say, and I know I could piss off a lot of people by saying this, that J.J. Abrams did a much better job directing Star Trek than he did directing Star Wars.
I will have to agree with you there, because the Star Trek movies, the newer ones at least, were actually pretty good and fun to watch.
Yeah.
While he did Force Awakens, which was...
It was fun. It was good.
But obviously, the movie is a flawed movie as well, too. Same thing, obviously, with Rise of Skywalker, where basically I felt like he didn't have any sort of pull in that. It was just basically the studios, Kathleen Kennedy, everything, and then the executives are just like, we got to fix everything that past two movies did. And
try to sell something that is fantastic. Kennedy, for me, kind of felt like a producer that just sat in her seat and was like, we can sell that. We can sell that. We can sell that. And we can definitely sell that. And you can tell that in the interviews where she made an appearance in the whole gallery episodes, she was controlling. She was very ignorant, and she never progressed the conversations away from what she was only interested in. And she seemed to take credit for things that she had no work or no hands in. Yeah. And it's like, you speak like a Moneybags producer. Yeah. Like, you don't understand the legacy and what Star Wars means to the fans. For me, Favreau is the proper definition of what a Star Wars creative director, whatever you want to call him, could be and lead the franchise into a new era that would be fantastic for pretty much everyone. I would like to see him. I definitely feel that Kennedy's time is done. She should move on. If she wants to go work with the new Indiana Jones era, by all means, go for it. That's where she came from. Yeah. She was the assistant to George Lucas when it came to,
Indiana
I think,
Jones?
I want to say yes. I think so. But she was pretty much an assistant to George Lucas with the whole Indiana Jones franchise. So I think that if she wants to go and take hold of the new Indiana Jones franchise, by all means, go for it. We still have the original 3 movies. We know that it's kind of already like up in the air of like wherever. So if she messes it up, whatever. But Star Wars is going to continue on and on and on for years to come. Favreau can take it. I want him to take it. This has shown that he has the brains, the mind, the love, the passion, everything to continue forth with this franchise. So here's hoping that we actually get that,
Yeah. Definitely.
It's just a matter of pretty much seeing if Disney wants to take the risk and end Mandalorian after season 2 and give him the reins of it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. All right, Rene, Are we good with this episode?
Yes, guys. All right, guys. So to end this episode, if you guys don't know, you guys can also follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Spotify. You could follow us on Podbean. You can follow us on YouTube, all at Keeping Up with the Nerds. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video. Also, just tell us what you guys want to hear. You know, give us our feedback. We always want to hear feedback. You know, that's our thing. We want to make the show better. You know, we're always open to, you know, going into new places and stuff like that, talking about new things, you know. So yeah, just give us your feedback, guys.
Rene, thank you for making this Star Wars themed last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I think when this comes out, we would have already had posted a video about Star Wars Squadrons as well.
Yes.
So there's 3 different episodes. So if you're listening, like Rene said, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Podbean, head on over to our YouTube channel. We kind of discuss a little bit about Star Wars Squadrons as well. So you get 3 different things regarding Star Wars, and maybe next week, I don't know, we'll decide. I mean, it might not be Star Wars, but it'd be fun to kind of do.
We'll figure it out.
A trilogy of Star Wars podcasts, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, thank you guys for listening.
Yes.
Am I ready to take this out?
Go for it, Brian. This is it.
Thank you, citizens, for listening to this issue of Keeping Up with the Nerds Variety Hour. I am your super host, Brian.
Rene.
Coming to you from 12920 Philadelphia Street, Whittier, California. Recording at Undercity Comics. We thank you, citizens, once again, and hope to see you all